Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the free-to-play cast. Ooh, let me button my shirt here. Ooh, got my boobies showing. Get those back in there. Get those puppies back in there. All right, welcome to the free-to-play cast brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man. We've got games leaving, but not being shut down, but leaving. And we had this happen a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, with another title, too. We've got a bunch of other stuff, and to go through it all, we've got our guest host. First up, Q, how are you?
I'm good, still sleepy, but good.
I love your background now. I really do. It's not as crazy as the previously painted place, but...
Yeah, I still miss those colors, but they're letting us paint. I just have to, have the money for it. So.
Also on the line, filling in, because Zach Sharps is... getting his wisdom tooth pulled.
You can't. Not peeled. Oh my god.
That just made my jaw hurt. And Jason's in the middle of a move here. We've got another game breaker face, Mr. Troy Blackburn. What's up, man?
Man, what's going on? It's unfortunate that I'm having to fill in because of what Zach is involved in at the moment. I mean, getting your wisdom teeth peeled, that sounds pretty horrendous, actually. So our thoughts are with him.
Yeah, that does sound awful. That sounds absolutely horrendous. Ooh, getting your teeth peeled. Well, that'll be a blooper for future blooper reels. Let's get started with the news. First up, before we roll into the news stories here, Troy, we've obviously, the three of us have worked together for quite some time on different sites before, and you do your own thing now, and have been for a while, and you've been kind of molding that and changing that a little bit just recently. So what are you doing now? Where can we find your thoughts? Are you doing videos? Are you streaming? What are the free-to-play games that you're actually dabbling in? Obviously, League of Legends is a big part of what you do. So catch everybody up that may not know what happened to Troy after he departed from Gamebreaker.
Yeah, I spent quite a period of time just trying to figure out, what's next, what's going on, picking up freelance jobs here and there, Screen Rant, Game Rant, places like that, and just trying to just continue on. And then I finally just decided, you know what, screw this. 6 years ago, when I started my own blog, I started from scratch. I was like, you know what, that got me to where I wanted to be at the time. Let's just start over again. Let's just go again. And originally the plan was to jump into YouTube and start hitting YouTube real hard.
Right.
Of course, advertiser issues. There's a lot of stuff going on with YouTube right now.
Tell me
copyright
about it.
Strikes. Even with a partnered channel, copyright strikes are a horrendous problem right now with YouTube. The system is easily abused by folks who have no business putting copyright strikes on videos. So eventually, I decided, you know what, screw this. We're not doing this either. For the past month or so, I've been streaming daily, every single day, twitch.tv/noobfridge, playing a lot of Marvel Heroes. That's my go-to game right now for just log in every day, grind it out. Sometimes you think real hard about it and work out a build, and sometimes you just mindlessly grind loot, and it's great. No matter what mood I'm in, that game fits the bill. So, I mean, every day, daily. As a matter of fact, we got the stream off early today so that we could jump over here and be with you fine folks.
Oh, well, we appreciate that. Thank you. Marvel Heroes, that's one that, it's either hit or miss. Nobody that I've ever talked to about that game, Q, is like, oh, it's all right. It's either they absolutely love it and play it every day, or fuck that game, it screwed everything up.
I think too, part of that would probably just come from the fact that some of the people who are super into it are probably super into it solely because it is Marvel.
Yeah.
So you just love it because it's Marvel and you get to play with all the Marvel characters and stuff. And then, of course, there's the people who actually care about the gameplay. But, yeah, I think part of the love for a lot of people is just, it's Marvel.
What's the reception like for that one? I know we're a little off topic, but what's the reception like for the console version, Troy?
The folks who are actually playing the console seem to enjoy it quite a bit. There's a lot of good differences between PC and console for those console players. Of course, it's lacking a lot of content right now. They're going to slowly roll heroes and story modes and things and raids out over time. The PC player base right now is up in arms on the forums. They're not happy. They feel like second-class citizens now.
That kind of started with the whole biggest update ever from everything I was following. They touted this, and then the backlash was not... I don't think it was what they were looking for. What happened?
Things that may or now, don't get me wrong, there were definitely some changes implemented that were very console specific because Gazillion knew they were going to console. That's been the worst kept secret in maybe all of free-to-play gaming over the past year, that this game was going to console. They were like banning people from the forums and stuff for even bringing it up. But we all knew it was coming. But there were definitely changes in the BUE that were console specific. The whole BUE, though, was not a console specific move. A lot of changes that were made actually were good for the game on PC and on console. A lot of folks just don't want to admit that because there are the changes that are console specific, and some of them aren't as fun on PC. And so people that really did start with the counters on the dash movements, and it kind of just escalated from there. And it's really gotten out of hand at this point, where Gazillion's not communicating as well as they used to. On top of all this, even the announcement, I think you guys talked about at some point. They made an announcement, hey, big announcement, we're going to console, and their PR failed to at least add the words in their announcement, and we're still going to support PC.
Right.
They assumed it was implied. I assumed it was implied.
Yep.
But you still have to say those words, and they failed to do that for days after the initial console announcement. And that just stirred the bee's nest, and everything's just sort of kind of went to crap from there. The forums are not a happy place to be right now.
All right, so before we part ways on Marvel Heroes, because we totally got sidetracked by the game here, do you think this is another situation where David Brevik maybe looks back on something he was intimately involved in and kind of goes, that's not what I would have done with it, kind of like what he did with the whole, when Diablo 3 launched, and there's that notorious interview where he kind of was like, yeah, no, I wouldn't have done that to the Diablo franchise. He was a big part of Marvel Heroes for a very long time, and then left Gazillion a while ago. It's changed a lot since then. What do you think the Mr. Brevik would have to say about the game?
There are definitely things that Gazillion has done since his parting that he flat out said while he was part of the company, no, we're not going to do that. Some of those were, even at the time before he departed, were starting to become antiquated thoughts that did need to change. And some of those are some old video game tropes that players love in their ARPGs, the David Brevik fingerprints all over everything. It's still there. It is harder to come by now. But yeah, if he was still in charge there, I got a feeling a lot of things would still be different. But I don't think that's necessarily 100% for the good. I think there were changes that did need to be made, and some of those have come along with the stuff that other things that some folks aren't happy about.
Interesting. Q, are you a Marvel Heroes girl? I tried playing it like 3 different times, and it just, I love ARPGs, and I'm not, maybe to your point, I'm not huge on the comic book license. It's not a be-all, end-all for me. I enjoy DC Universe Online, but I don't necessarily enjoy it because it's a comic book based game or a DC based game. So maybe that has something to do with it. But even back in those days, and it's been a while since I've played it myself, Marvel Heroes was just kind of okay for me, not something that I just, maybe that's counterintuitive to the point I made at the beginning of this, where it's either love it or get rid of this fucking game. But I'm just kind of meh, I don't care.
So I'm really funny about superhero-related stuff. Like, I like comic books. I love the movies. Well, not all movies. I have, like, a fine line of, like, who's good at what between movies and animation and all of that stuff. But I'm not big on playing superhero games. I do not want to play superhero characters. So I just avoid the entire thing altogether unless somebody goes, here, you need to write a thing on this.
Wow, that is really weird. Like, you want to be able to fly in real life. You want to have X-ray vision. Maybe not in everyday circumstances. I mean, there's some people I know that I'd shut the X-ray vision off. But, you want to do that. The whole idea, the whole draw is the impossible to do, and it doesn't do it for you.
I think it's one of those things of like the storytelling behind it, like say the Marvel Cinematic, right? Like they kind of set this thing up to where this stuff is developing almost as evolution for the most part. If you're watching the cinematic universe with the like some alien intervention, some evolution, but that kind of thing. But I don't know. It's just like. I kind of like my favorite superheroes actually are the people who don't have superpowers. Hawkeye, Iron Man, Batman, like people who maybe have really high skills and some money to go behind it or something like that, but the entire like I'm super powered because there's a big yellow sun, and yay! And oh, hey, I was bit by a spider, and now I have superpowers and don't know what to do with them. Nah.
Stan Lee would be very mad at you. Would be very...
But flying, Q, but flying.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, Iron Man can fly, right? But he can fly because he has a suit that lets him do it. So
Q's like, just give me a flying mount and call it a frickin' day.
Exactly. Let the mount fly and I'm good.
People can't fly, only griffins can. What, Q? What? Wait, what?
Hey, if you evolve wings, if it's like an X-Men scenario and you happen to evolve wings, okay.
All right. Okay, so moving on to actual news that we wanted to cover today. Thank you for the update on Marvel Heroes there, Troy. With you being involved in it, just thought I'd get your take on it. Excuse me. Oof. Still dying from this cough. All right, so Russian publisher 101 XP, maybe not so happy with Bless. And yes, we're still talking about Bless Online. Still. I remember talking about this not only on Game Breaker on one of the shows, particularly one of the free-to-play shows, Troy, but even before that when I was with MMO Bomb originally.
Wow.
Years and years ago, we were talking about Bless Online and it potentially coming to the West. And it's been looking like it was progressing throughout the last year, but now apparently Publisher 101 XP is just not happy with the Russian version. And to be fair, they probably aren't all that off base. When it originally launched in Russia, it only had 45 of the 60 levels that it was supposed to have. Had a lot of bugs, a lot of polish issues, just basically wasn't done. And so 101 XP has decided we're shutting the game down for a while. We're just going to shut the Russian game down. On May 25th, it'll be shut down. You already can't do your subscriptions and things if you were paying for like their patron packs and all that fun stuff until some changes can be made. Now, we had this happen not too long ago here in the West with, what was it, Q? Hero Wars, wasn't it? Hero Wars.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I think Hero Wars was in beta and decided we're going to shut down for a while because we're going to totally revamp this game a little bit. And to me, okay, fine. If you're in beta and you want to do that, I get that. And you could argue that, you know, Bless is in some type of a beta stage somewhere in the world. But like it or not, this game is so many years old that there are places in the world where this is done and has been done for years now. So I gotta ask, good move, Troy? Or bad move spelling the end of Bless and potentially a Western release with Area Games?
It's definitely a unique move. It's not every day, especially when something's considered quote-unquote still in beta, right? Because that's when most folks are like, go ahead and give us your money. And we'll just keep taking your money, and we're going to continue development of the game, right? Like, oh, like we promise all this other stuff's coming. So I tried to look into it a little bit. Google Translate can only go so far because this is, you know, a Russian publisher, so I can only make sense of so much of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Google Translate
I
isn't
said Area Games. It's 101 XP.
Yeah, I was interested to see whether or not this was like 100% the publisher saying this wasn't good enough, or fan outcry being like, hey, look, this is stupid. This sucks. We're done giving you money for this. I couldn't find those answers, but it doesn't really matter what the cause was. The fact that this publisher was willing to pull it and say, look, we're not even going to leave it in beta and let you continue to try to provide content for this. We're just shutting this bad boy down, sending it back to you in Korea. Do something with this, and we'll take it back when it reaches a certain state that we're willing to accept. That's so unusual. I mean, the game you just talked about and what, XIV, those are the only two I can think of, like off the top of my head,
right,
that had anything even remotely close to just shutting the thing down and coming back. Is it a good thing for the players? Those who were enjoying the game are probably sad about it. It's a good thing for the players that a publisher is willing to step up and say this isn't right, regardless of whether it was their idea or the player's idea. It could be a bad thing for those who love the game, because, I mean, I could very realistically see this not ever making a comeback and not ever reaching the point. Like you said, how many years has it been in development now? How many years have they had to get this right at this point?
Yeah.
Why is it, if it's not ready by now, what's another 6 months going to do for it?
Yeah, and taking a look, obviously, yes, it's still considered a beta test there, so it's It's not like, and Hero Wars did the same thing. It's not like they're shutting down a technically live game, and they seem to be saying all of the right things, like, why are we closing it? And they said, well, in conjunction with the developers, we decided we want this game to go back for full completion before we continue beta testing this. And what happens to the game is we're sending it back for revision. We don't know how long it's going to take right now. Are they offering refunds? Yes, they even give you how to refund your balance or return it to real money. So there, you could even use it in other 101 games like Icarus and things like that. So they seem to be saying all the right things here, Q. And obviously, I get people being upset, but at the end of the day, to me, it just seems like it's the right decision. Otherwise, the publisher, particularly, not just the developer, but more on the publisher, runs the risk of the appearance of, we know the game is bad, but we're going to milk it for as much money as we can while we're working out the rest of it. I almost like this approach more. And 101 is not a publisher that us players in the West have a ton of experience with, but I will say that the experiences I have had with them aren't generally positive. So I kind of like this move coming from this type of publisher that maybe I don't have the best view reputation-wise of.
Well, I think, like you're saying, it was in beta. So here's the thing: when I was writing, the piece for this, they were saying that like one of the issues was it was supposed to, and they used the words, launch and everything
right.
with what was it, 60 levels, but it only had 45. And what it seemed like is not that they were saying that it was a bad game, but that they were saying it was incomplete.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, well, betas are weird now, right? Like, really, beta is more like promotional, whatever. But to me, when I hear the word beta, I still think that means incomplete, right? So you're in beta, you're supposed to be testing the game, and therefore they shouldn't have necessarily had to shut the entire thing down if it's in a legitimate beta instead of, just a marketing, we're just letting you try out the game and not actually really doing any testing kind of stuff.
Right.
But if it was just, it's incomplete, okay, continue the beta, get the feedback you need, get more updates to the beta, get the stuff in there slowly. You don't have to be at 60 right at the beginning of beta. Like, that seems a little weird to me. Now, if it was a fully launched game and they went, well, it was supposed to launch with 60 levels and it only launched with 45 and it didn't have everything that they said it was going to have, well, why'd you go ahead and agree to launch it in the first place?
Yeah. Like,
if it was incomplete coming to you as a fully, like ready to go game, then, and now you're coming back and going, oh, well, it didn't have everything you said when you gave it to us. Why did you let it go through in the first place?
Yeah, it is a bit weird. And I guess in the interest of being totally like 100% as accurate as possible, I guess the game technically hasn't really released anywhere, like into a full release. But I will tell you, and I'm trying to look up the first, because I know I covered this even before I was ever on Game Breaker at any point. Here is something on MMO Bomb from 2012 on Bless. And that was its, I think it's, again, I'm not reading it verbatim here, but that is its original G-Star 2012 like trailer release type deal. So was definitely far in development by the time 2012 rolled around, and now we're looking at a Wikipedia page that says releasing sometime in 2017. So that's
yeah. A couple months ago, Area Games made a trip over to Korea to visit the developers in the game. I don't know what came of that, but that was just that was like December or January, so it wasn't that long ago. So it's still. They still think it's coming at some point here in the West, at least.
Yeah.
Now whether or not this ends up having implications on that or not is a whole
people
nother.
always ask about. They always throw it in the comments. When is Bless Online coming? Like, we had that, and we had Blade and Soul, right? Those were the two that people always. Any update on Blade and Soul in the West? Any update on Bless Online in the West? And finally, we see Blade and Soul, and it's doing very well, actually, in the West.
Actually, a really fun game. I don't usually like those Eastern imports, but that's actually a really fun game.
Yeah, Q's doing a high-level checkout of that game right now, so we'll have some more information on a max level look at the game there too. I don't know. I lost my amp for Bless a long time ago, and this, I mean, come on. If we're 5 years in and you're launching a Russian beta in 2017 for a game you talked about publicly at G-Star in 2012, and all the levels aren't even there,
and they sent it back.
I'm losing faith a little bit there, but that's fine. The Russian Bless Online going away for a little while. We'll keep our eyes peeled on both it and its Western counterpart. But as far as things appearing, and I'll let you two speak to this a little more than myself, since I just don't play MOBAs. Heroes 2.0, Heroes of the Storm, is now available worldwide. The beta, the pet testing realm. It's gone. You're live in the 2.0, and good lord, did Blizzard throw a ton of shit inside the 2.0 launch in the way of modes, the Nexus Challenge, the gem bundle, which Q you can tell us about that one, new heroes, new skin. I mean, they just loaded this. Special delivery, a couple payload options. They loaded the 2.0 launch. Are you a Heroes guy, Troy?
Oh, man. I want to love Heroes of the Storm, and we can talk about this a little more here in just a few minutes when we kind of cover the features. I have played it. I do play it off and on occasionally. I did log in and get my 20 free hero bundle, by the way. If you haven't logged into Heroes of the Storm in a long time, log in. You're fixing to get a bunch of stuff. It doesn't matter if you didn't really play all that much. I had chests to unlock. I got heroes. I got skins. I got mounts. They give you free gems to buy a bundle with 20 heroes. They're giving away a lot of stuff here at the launch of 2.0. So it's worth logging in if you think you may play this game again sometime in the future for sure.
Yeah, and I saw that piece, Q, and considered logging in myself, even though I know I'm not really going to play it because of the 20 hero bundle. How does that work? There's a couple different bundles to choose from, and then you get to pick one of those. What's going on with that offer?
Yeah, so basically what they do is they give you the gems, they're to go ahead and buy the bundle, which I guess means you could maybe use the gems for something else if you don't want the bundles, or the bundle, but you only get to pick one bundle. Once you pick one of these bundles, the other ones just kind of, they're no longer selectable. So I guess even if you have 100 more gems to spare, it's not an option. But they divided them into basically class bundles. So there's 4 of them, and based on whichever classes you're prone to playing most, that's the bundle you're going to want to pick. So it's one of those.
That makes sense.
Choose wisely, because once you get it, you're stuck with it. But I mean, it's if you do it just right and you know exactly what you like to play, that's 20 heroes right off the bat.
Yep. So Diva, new hero, was added to the game. The Nexus Challenge is back. So if you're an Overwatch fan and a Heroes of the Storm fan, and you got some friends that are both, you have a chance over the next 4 weeks to earn some prizes by playing those 2 games in tandem with your friends. Checkpoint Hanamura is a single player or a single payload tug of war added to the game as well. And then you have Special Delivery, I think is the name of it, where pulse bombs, just for God's sakes, it looks chaotic. When you watch
it's gonna be fun to watch.
It definitely looks like a lot of fun to watch. So tons of stuff. There's a new site up that has all of these extra new features. So check it out. If you're a Heroes of the Storm fan, I'm hearing nothing but good things about the change, with a few small gripes here and there. Of course, that's going to happen. But Troy, this is not your MOBA of choice. Why?
It's not.
Yeah, I know you're a Blizzard guy.
Yeah, I always have been. My major qualms with it right now, they need to speed up the entire game by about 10%. Movement, attacks. They need to zoom the camera out just a little bit, and they need to shrink the freaking UI, or at least let us control our own UI size. That game is so slow and so claustrophobic, and I know people are going to hate me for saying that, but go, and I know you're going to hate me for saying this too, go play Smite, go play League of Legends, go play other MOBAs that are out there that are slightly faster paced. I know this is for
there are no
more
other MOBAs
casual
out
crowd,
there, Troy.
But
it's
this game
just
is
Heroes
so
of the Storm.
slow.
That's it. There's no other MOBAs out there.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Heroes of the Storm was the first MOBA. Here we go.
Hilariously, I think Troy and I are both wearing Smite shirts.
Are you
I am
really?
wearing
Let's
a
see.
Smite shirt.
Let's see.
I'm wearing my Chinese Pantheon shirt.
Yeah, what do you got on, Q?
Mechathor.
All right. Representing high res while we're talking about Blizzard's Heroes of the Storm. Well, if you want to check it out, there is a ton to check out. It's undeniable there, and all the whole progression changes. And we're not going to get into those because we have talked about that on the show when we actually went to Blizzard's event and saw this all released. So check it out. Tons to check out there. But in the weird news stories of the week, let's stick with MOBAs. Dota 2. Does this one get a higher ranking from you, Troy, than Heroes does? Dota 2?
No,
No.
Dota's always sorry. And look, I'm just screw it. You know, my first appearance on this show, we're just gonna make everybody mad.
It's gonna be the last one, I think.
Dota is at the bottom of my mobile list. Sorry.
Is it
Sorry.
really?
Heroes of the Storm is above Dota for me. I know. I can hear you screaming through the internet already, and you haven't even watched this yet. I hear you. It's just not for me. Sorry.
So Dota 2 Q introduced. I don't even know what to call it. Feature is not the word.
I guess it would be a security feature.
How about, a requirement? A requirement?
That's a better word, yeah.
So, effective May 4th, if you want to play ranked games in Dota 2, you're going to have to supply Valve with a piece of information. That information is that you'll have to register a phone number on your account. Now, the purpose here, we'll talk about the public announcement of why, is to help prevent issues of players, obviously creating multiple accounts, right? So they can then abuse the matchmaking system, make those fake accounts, level them up, sell them off, that type of thing. But I hate giving out my phone number for good reasons. And to me, this is a dumb reason. I personally just would not do it. I'm a total ridiculous guy for this, and you guys can tell me if I am. I would literally stop playing a game over this. I really would. And I know this only applies to ranked, but that obviously it's a MOBA, so ranked is a huge part of what the game does. And I know in other countries and in other areas of the world, a phone number is no big deal compared to being in Korea and having to use your social security number for games. I understand that. So people may have it off worse than having to cough up a phone number. But I'm not in those countries where I have to give my social security number for this type of stuff. And I'm sorry, I know Valve isn't going to be selling it. Or, well, at least publicly, right? They're not going to sell it.
Yeah.
They're not going to market it. They're not going to supply it to third parties and things like that. I know they're going to put all the usual, your privacy is our number one concern stuff on it. But no. I mean, we've seen enough things breached all the way up to, Sony's PlayStation Plus networks and who owned them. No, I'm not giving Valve my phone number. I'm sorry, I don't like any game enough to start coughing up that type of information just to play a portion of the game. There are companies I have given my phone number or mailing address to because I want to be notified of certain things, like offers they're putting in games and things like that. But just to play your game, making this a requirement, I automatically wouldn't play. How nuts am I, Q?
I mean, I don't think you're nuts at all. It's kind of weird, actually, because when Twitter first came out, way back in the day, and we were still using flip phones and stuff to use it, which is why the whole 140 character thing exists in the first place. I actually signed up for Twitter so I could use it as a way to let people text me who I didn't want to give my number to. That was my whole reason for signing up for Twitter. It was an alternate way for people to be able to reach me without me going, oh, sure, have my cell phone number. And the other thing is a job I've been doing recently is actually me tracking down information on people. And it's really not that hard. But the more information I already have on you, the easier it is for me to find all the other information on you.
Yeah.
Period. I have people going, I don't know how you got this. And it's like, well, it's really easy, actually, for me to get, all kinds of information on you, like whether or not you own a house, your criminal record. It's so easy. easy.
Q's a fucking internet stalker. I'm not giving you shit.
It's easy.
You got my
She
Skype
has my
name
phone
from...
number. Oh God.
Just volunteer to a game company because I mean, really, how many times a year do we all go, oh, time to change all our passwords because so-and-so was hacked again?
And I get it. I get it. This is an easy fix to a problem. I get it. All right, we'll just require people to put their phone numbers on their account. But then there's all kinds of other considerations, like what if I change my phone number? What if I lose my phone and I get a new one and it's a totally different phone number and I can't remember
this? There's workarounds too.
I'm sure there's going to be workarounds, but it's a pain in the ass. Why not just say, hey guys...
No, not workarounds to actually make it not matter or not whether you put in your phone number. You
absolutely.
More accounts.
Oh, yeah.
There's text now. Like, I have like 2 phone numbers on one phone because I have text now.
Yep. I mean,
right?
You could...
So...
What's wrong, Troy, with just saying, hey, we're going to require that you use Google Authenticator?
That's my big question. Why are we not just using Google Authenticator? I already choose to use Google Authenticator for several things for second-party authentication in different games to try to help my things from getting hacked. Still doesn't always work 100% of the time, by the way. It just seems like, now look, this is something that needs a response. There definitely needs to be something done. Smurfing makes a terrible experience for new players.
Yep.
Leveling and selling of accounts makes a terrible experience for everybody.
Yeah.
These are definitely things that are detriments to the gameplay experience for players, a detriment to the company overall. This response felt like they went from 0 to 100 like that without even stopping to think, is there an in-between? That was my initial thought was, dude, I've already got Google Authenticator for, I don't know, a dozen different things right now. Why can't I just add one more thing into my Google Authenticator? I'm pretty sure that's tied to, as a matter of fact, I can't Google Authenticate on my tablet the same things I Google Authenticate on my phone. So it's already tied to my phone. Why can't we just use something that people are already used and familiar with without giving up personal information? Because the point that you brought up, Mike, is the excellent one. It's only a matter of time before a hack comes through, before somebody gets in, and they can tell us that it's safe and nothing's going to happen all they want to. It's only a matter of time before there's a big list somewhere on the deep web of everybody's phone number from Dota 2. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, and now, so here's a quote, too, on the whole, voice over IP and stuff like that, where you can, clone a bunch of phone numbers. Valve acknowledged that a linked phone number will not eliminate multiple accounts for a single user entirely. Our goal is to add just enough friction to this process that the number of players doing this will be noticeably reduced. So, I mean, they're even saying, we know this doesn't solve the problem. We're just hoping that out of the 100 people doing it, this will make it inconvenient for 60 of them to do it.
Well, I mean, and if it really comes down to it, say they don't want to use specifically Google Authenticator. They're a large company. Why not just do like Blizzard does and create their own authenticator?
Yeah, and we're talking about Valve. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. They do Steam. Have you ever heard of this?
Exactly.
Which requires me to authenticate my own email address like once every 3 months already.
That's a great point. I already Steam Guard on my phone as well. It's the same company.
So
you've already got an authenticator. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but you're absolutely right. You've already got an authenticator of your own.
Yeah, it's very weird. Very weird. Like, I get what they're trying to do, and hey, this is kind of an easy...
Yes, it's the right thing to do. They're going about it the wrong way.
But they have lots of smart people there that can find other solutions that don't involve me giving you my phone.
Right.
Not if you judge it based on their customer support, because that's one of the biggest companies in the world, and they have like 2 people working customer support.
Customer support
Maybe
is
they don't.
a different issue, and for most places, it's generally crap. So
they're busy working on Half-Life 3.
They're busy counting their money. Yes.
Yeah, they couldn't see the
confirmed,
monitor over the...
Mike just confirmed that Half-Life 3, ladies and gentlemen, is coming.
Before we finish up today, I thought this was kind of an interesting little piece. It was over on IGN, so credit where due. Nathan Lawrence wrote up an article on IGN talking about the troubling psychology of pay-to-loot systems. Now, pay-to-loot. That's not really an acronym we hear all that often, particularly here in the West. Kind of because if you read through the article, you get the impression they kind of made it up. To me, they kind of took, and Jason, I know, shares the same opinion here. they kind of took a bunch of different monetization tricks that companies do and jammed them into this pay-to-loot term. But more specifically, they're referencing lockboxes, okay? And it's a couple psychologists bantering about the danger of this type of addictive-based system. So when you get lockboxes as, rewards when you level up. Every 5 levels queue, you get a lockbox. But we also sell these lockboxes in the game's shop as well. They kind of lumped a lot of these monetization things into one category and then just threw a blanket statement over all of it. It is an interesting read, but they accused this pay-to-loot system of being, quote, subtler and arguably worse than pay-to-win, specifically, psychologically here, because of the gambling-like addiction that can result from it. I thought it was an interesting piece, but the more I read it, Troy, I kind of was like, it seems like a fluff piece almost to me. Like there was controversy created for controversy's sake. And we've talked about lockboxes on this show entirely too many times, and I agree with the whole addictive gambling nature of a lockbox in a game, particularly when you're not advertising the odds of certain things in lockboxes. I think that's absolutely 100% wrong, and the laws need to change with the technology. Yeah. But until that happens, I'm just not going to buy them. Do you think it's actually like a psychological danger, like this article kind of portrayed?
I think there's obviously something to it. There's definitely something about these that the folks are buying them, whatever that reason may be, whether it's just because they enjoy that system or they're becoming psychologically addicted to them. I don't think there's any doubt that there's something to that because it's working. Look at all the games that are doing that now. Even Heroes of the Storm just changed to almost exactly that, almost identical to what Overwatch has. You level up, you get a loot box. They're trying to encourage you to buy more. I can't disagree entirely. I don't know that we need to go run for the hills in fear from it. But I've thought for a long, long time, I agree with you, Mike, laws need to change on the way lockboxes are done in this country. It's so many games do it so close to gambling. I don't understand how it's not considered gambling when you have no idea what you're going to get out of some of them in some systems. You don't know what your odds of getting things out of these loot chests are. There are some games who do it where you can see the items that are in it plain as day, and you don't get duplicates. Like if you know for a fact if you put this much amount of money into this lockbox, you're going to end up with all these items before it's all said and done at least.
Yeah.
And then there's other games where you just throw money at it and you're just like, screw it, let's just see what pops out of it. I think there should be more regulation to lockboxes for sure. Am I running from the hills in fear? No, I'm like you. If there's an item, if there's a lockbox that has even 55 different items in it, and I know if I buy 55 of them, I'm eventually going to get the one thing I want, I'm still not buying that lockbox.
Right.
There might be 5 things in there I'm okay with getting, and there's 45 things in there that I just don't want. So I'm not spending $100 on your stupid lockbox to try to get the one thing I want. I would rather just give you 10 or 15 bucks to get the thing that I want and just be done with it.
Yep. Q, at the top level, I agree with the piece, right? I'm not casting aspersions on the piece. I thought there were some blanket statements made that I disagree with, and they're specifically quoting Emil Hodzik, who is a registered psychologist and owns and operates the Video Game Addiction Treatment Clinic, has tons of experience in not only gaming addiction, particularly for teenagers, but also problem gambling and drug dependencies. And so you are talking to somebody who, at least credential-wise, knows exactly what they're talking about, right? I don't have any problem with that, and I agree with the overall assertion of the piece that specifically, and this is reading directly from the article, in behavioral psychology, that randomized system of reward is the one that creates the most addiction. That's the one that causes all the drama. Now, that comment comes from an interview about microtransactions tied to random number generating card packs, or what he calls pay to loot. It's a system that exists beyond genres, and irrespective of the price of the game, it's becoming more common. And his assertion isn't just that it's a problem in general, but that the games almost actively go after it and go after that addictive trait by giving you the boxes themselves for free at various points along the game, and then hiding behind well, it's totally optional. You don't have to buy these. There's nothing going on here. When they're the ones that gave you the incentive of go buy that $2 key so you can unlock this because maybe you'll get a shiny Q. What do you think?
So on the gambling thing, it's interesting because I'm actually what's known as a casino kid. I grew up in casinos. My mom was a waitress in them. My brother's mom was a waitress. My brothers were busboys. I spent a lot of time in casinos. I hate them with a passion. I can't stand them. Like, it's just like a place of despair. But they are designed in such a way to lure you in. Like, you know, the slot machines play music in a very specific way. The carpet does patterns. There's stuff pumped in through, like, specific scents pumped in through the ventilation. The lighting is just right, and everything is designed to, you know, back in the day, they would give you free drinks as long as you sat there and played the machines, and then they'd give you a free room because they didn't want you to be driving around drunk, right? There was all these incentives just to stay. And so I can kind of see where they're coming with that, with like the incentive of, oh, here's a taste, and then, you know, going, you know, get the other. And I've seen it, you know, like I play a lot of mobile games, so I come across this a lot, you know, like playing The Simpsons Tapped Out and stuff like that, where they do those kinds of things. The issue I run into it with, and like, I expect it from free, like, you know, free to play games. They got to make their money some way, right? But when you're talking like Overwatch,
which is the game that both authors of this piece, or both people that are cited in this piece, specifically call out.
Right, because you're dropping like $60, $70 on this game, and then you're turning around and you're paying for other drops on top of it, or, you know, like just the entire system of, you've actually got a drop, but now you got to go buy a key to see if you got anything of value out of the drops.
Oh god!
Like, but it does go into that whole adrenaline kind of thing, right? Like when you're sitting there in a casino and you're surrounded, and it may not even be you who hits the slot machine and it pumps out all the money. It could be someone like 3 down from you, like suddenly something pays out, you know, on your row, or the lights go off because somebody won the big thing or whatever. Then you're just sitting there more like pumping more money into that machine and playing because somebody else that you know, or that just happened to be near you, scored. And so, you know, like, it gets your adrenaline pumping, and you're sitting there going, that could be me, you know, and you're just throwing more money at it. And it's kind of the same thing, right? Like, well, and you know, like, I'm a junkie for drops. How long did we spend in Rift, like, trying to get those mounts, right?
Yep. All three of us.
And I was the last one to get it, right? And then you just saw me, like, running around and around and around, doing all the stuff over and over again, fighting the same exact things, trying to get this one mount because, well, everybody else around me had it, and I wanted it too, so I just kept going, you know, until I got it. And you know, there is that kind of thing, and I don't really mind that as much because I wasn't throwing money at it to get it. I was just investing a lot of time. But trying to explain that to somebody who doesn't game, and I was actually trying to explain these things to a friend of mine, she was just baffled that I would spend time and money and energy for something that's virtual, which actually lends to Troy's other point about, like, the legality of it and everything. I think the big difference is, comparing it to gambling, is we're not actually getting money out of it. We're getting something that really has no intrinsic value outside of the game and to us. Everybody else in the world is like, why do you care about this spidery looking thing that your character rides around on? I don't get it.
It's real to me, damn it.
Right, but you're also forced, even though it has no intrinsic value, you're also forced to accept the premise that it's random.
Right.
And that's where I have a huge problem. I only know that it's random because Blizzard tells me in Overwatch it's random. I don't have, you know, this shiny has a 1% chance of drop rate. This one has 6. This one has 20. This one has 50. 9. You know, and this one is the other 40-50% that's left over. I don't have what would traditionally have in gambling, a payout table of any type and an odds table of any type. And because I don't have that, which I know that doesn't help me, right? It doesn't. I'm not going to increase my chances of winning the 1% shiny simply because I know it's 1%. But because I don't have that, I am forced into a position where I have to just take Blizzard's word for it, and unless somebody on a legal side of things breaks the source code, investigates it, nobody's going to know whether it's truly random or not. And then we've had other companies, including Blizzard, I think. Doesn't Blizzard have a legendary payout thing with Hearthstone? Like, if you haven't gotten a legendary in a particular period of time, then your odds start increasing that you will get one. I seem to remember some Blizzard game having some type of modifier there for somebody that's getting a lot of bad luck on these random things in a row. Maybe not Blizzard. Somebody can put it in the comments below. Let me know what I'm thinking of the top of my head. But introducing a formula like that, then it truly is not random if it's giving Troy a chance that, hey, you emptied 10 crates and got crap. So that 1% is now going to be 8% on your next crate.
And that's the thing, though, right? With casinos, it's the same way. Because I remember when I was a kid, my dad would go to the casino, wait for my mom to get off work, and there was a slot machine, like, right near the particular restaurant she was working in at the time. And he wouldn't sit at it. He would sit, like, across the way from it, like in a chair or something, and just watch and just count the people who were dropping money into it. And if he saw, like, I forget how many cycles it had to go through or whatever, but if he saw that they were, like, really close to it, like within 2 or 3 pulls, then when they got up and walked away and left it at that 2 or 3 pulls, he would walk over and drop money in for, like, the next 3, and it would pay off, right? So even the whole, like, thing of it being random there, it's not. And then they eventually on that slot machine actually had to come in and change the cycle on it because my dad had figured it out. So, I mean, you know, the whole it's random thing, like, oh, slot machines are so random. It's like, no, you sit there and it, you know, but yeah, he had figured it because a lot of people, like, after a while, they just get fed up waiting for this random thing, and they're suddenly somewhere they decide, oh, I've dropped too much money. Because more people at casinos are actually there just to drop a little bit of cash than the people who are literally going to sit there all day long.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. Is it's the same in video games, right? Like,
right?
If certain items have a better % chance to drop in these lockboxes than others, there's a lot less R in your RNG than you think there is.
Right, and I get what you're saying about the slot machines, Q, but there is no such thing as a hot or a cold slot machine. I mean, it may go on a string of not paying out or a string of paying out, but at the end of the day, those were independent rolls of the reels that all followed the same odds on every single pull, and you would not recognize, hey, that got hot until after the fact. I mean, that's just not how probability works. But when you have this lockbox and then you add on a modifier of we're going to up these percentages because Troy has spent... Look at that. As an example, it's an incentive to spend money because, Troy, you have spent $50. You did not get a payout of what you were hoping to get. But every time you don't get that payout, if there's that added mechanic of we're going to increase your odds on getting that thing for the next $50 you spend, it's almost enticing you, and particularly if you have that addictive gambling personality trait, right? I mean, it's begging you to spend another $50, isn't it?
My wife, yes. Me, no. The last time I was in a casino, I darn near had a panic attack. I was having some severe anxiety. I don't gamble. I don't like it. I don't buy lock boxes.
It's an interesting piece. It really is. Head to IGN and take a look at it. Again, there's 1 or 2 statements in it that I'm just kind of like, you're throwing a bunch of blanket stuff together. But the core message of the piece, I think, is really, really interesting. Well worth a read, particularly if you feel like some of us do. And then lockboxes have a long way to go before we would consider them something that is remotely correct. Before we head on to the bombs, AwesomeNauts going free to play May 24th, so the 2D MOBA. If you've bought it, you're going to get all kinds of little bonus things. I've never played AwesomeNauts. Have either of you?
No.
No, I actually have not. That $25 price tag has kind of stood in the way of that. And so now here we go.
Weird.
So is 4.0, when it makes it free, are you going to check it out, Troy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That thing has rave reviews on Steam. The
Yeah, it
only
does.
negative things you see said on Steam are this game needs more players.
Yeah.
Well, guess what's fixing to happen? That game's fixing to get more players, a lot more players.
Definitely.
You don't often see games that highly reviewed on Steam that switch to a monetization like free to play like that. So, I mean, I think that game has a chance to explode at this point, and I'll be there. I'll be part of it.
Q?
I think the same thing. I mean, like I said, MOBA's not being free to play is weird to me, and I think it's maybe because being free to play opens it up. If it's something that you want to be a competitive thing, which most MOBAs people do, then you want everybody to be able to get in there and play, because by putting that charge in there to start right up front, you're kind of just blocking a lot of people that might actually be really good at the game and really fun to watch.
Keep your eye on it, May 24th. Let's slide over and do the weekly bombs. I'm going to go first. An A-bomb to being sick all last week. It was awful. This weekend, I literally slept for almost 48 hours straight to finally recover because I still had work to do. I couldn't just relax during the week while I was sick. But now, I got that awesome cough, right, that goes with the aftermath of being sick for a long time, where it sounds like I'm hacking up a lung, and I've been the Marlboro Man for the last 60 years, and I've got that just, ugh, it's awful, but dub bomb to finally being better. Q!
I'm actually going to give it the bomb to the new Twitch affiliate program thing. I think that's actually kind of a really nice gesture for them, for a lot of the people that have been on there and working, like just pumping a lot of time into Twitch, but haven't really gotten much out of it, so that's pretty cool.
Troy!
I agree with you. I actually got in on that affiliate program just thanks to the people who have been checking out my stream, so it's really awesome. My dub bomb goes to Marvel Heroes finally coming to console. Something those of us who have been playing the game for a long time have always said it needed to do. They're finally doing it. I think that's a good move by Gazillion. I think it's going to be great for the game on both platforms.
There we go. There we go. All right, so let's take it to the viewers. Elusive X Treasure says, strap in. It's going to be a long one. Every time Elusive X Treasure comments lately, Q, there's always like some sort of 50 Shades of MMO thing, right? I think it was one of Elusive's comments that made me want to write 50 Shades of MMO, and now she's telling us to strap in. It's going to be a long one. So I guess that's what she said. Da bomb to... She's gonna kill me. I know she's gonna kill me in the comments as soon as this episode goes up tomorrow, because she's gonna give me the tisk tisk magic man like she did on a previous show. I'm sorry. Tell your hubby I said hello. You seem like great people. Dub bomb to awesome dungeon parties. It seems a rare occurrence to me relative to how many dungeons I've run, but I have 2 examples this week. The first one goes to the pet rogue my tank acquired for 5 or 6 dungeons. He ran with the hubby and I was out, a lot of fun to play with. I especially appreciated the fact that he asked if I minded before pulling a pat for me, rather than just being the sort of that face plants into mobs and expects me to babysit. That's me. The second example, I'll admit, was a little childish on my part, but it was quite hilarious. The hubby and I were DPSing in a dungeon, and the tank was being a real jerk, running the mobs around us and dragging them away from us to try and keep up his numbers. That's Troy. Not a huge deal, but annoying. But what really got me was that he wouldn't hold any threat, and we were getting our face beat in. I knew the next boss had a habit of possessing people, and I commented to the hubby that if it possessed him, I was just going to beat him down. It did, and all 3 DPS smoked him in a matter of seconds. He was understandably pissed, but we all thought it was hilarious. He called for all 3 of the DPS to be kicked, and the healer retorted by kicking him instead. We finished the dungeon sans tank with no issues, and it was great. I love stories like that. Love it. Go ahead, Q.
Adrian says, want to give a bomb to Orcs Must Die Unchained's new sabotage mode. It's quite fun. It somewhat reminded me of the PvP from Ascend, Hand of Cool. I wish there would be more games with similar pseudo PvP.
Awesome. Thanks for the feedback, Adrian. We talked about that last week. Orcs Must Die adding PvP back into a game that they removed PvP from. So, yeah. But then Jason explained it's a slightly different, mode. But awesome, Adrian. Go ahead, Troy.
Hellsworth, the bomb to Mass Effect Andromeda. I bought it and have been having a blast in the game. a bomb to Mass Effect Andromeda. It seems like everyone is nitpicking the game for its obvious reasons, and I'm not behind on it either. Bugs and multiplayer connection issues are all over, and they frustrate me so much on this AAA game that it just makes me want to boot up Warframe and say, this is how it's done. And connections are the Achilles heel of Warframe, so you can imagine how bad it gets in Andromeda.
Yeah, Andromeda, you know, it wasn't ready for launch. There's nothing, no need to go any further. It just wasn't ready. Forrest Simmons says, it's nice to get some game conversation from people over 27. And then somebody said, you know, what do you mean? And so Forrest followed up with, LOL, no hate. They just look old. Mostly the guy with the gray hair. I added this comment because Jason isn't on today's show. so I just sneak it in there. Mostly the guy with the gray hair. And most of the other channels I follow that review games and talk about MMO news are much younger. They all tend to have a very similar view on almost every game. This group seems to have a different perspective, and I appreciate that. Forrest, I'm glad you appreciate it, but get the fuck off my lawn.
You know what, though, right? Talking about, like, 20, you know, everybody is apparently under 27. You know, I've been playing games 12 years longer than that.
Get off my lawn, Forrest. I had to walk to school uphill both ways in the snow.
And
our
MMOs,
MMOs,
no gray hair this week, but we're all way over 27.
Our MMOs were played with rocks back in the days. We could.
For me to play the first video games I ever played, I had to walk down to a gas station that had cabinets to do it.
All right, I think both of you are older than me then. Just extrapolating from the conversation here, I think both of you are older, and I think, Q, you might have me by a few years. Troy,
I think I do.
Q's not a whole lot older than I am.
All right, I'm 36. If you don't want to say your age, you don't have to say.
Oh, I'm 38.
40.
Yeah, I'm 38.
All right, so you guys have me by a couple years.
Yeah.
But we're well over 27, so get off our lawn, leave us alone. Just want to go and play our 8-bit games and screw your 3D shit.
8-bit? What are you talking about? Back in my day, they were just text-based. There were no graphics. And I got stuck in a room with 4 walls and a door in my college dorm room, and I couldn't get out. Thank you.
You have been eaten by a grue.
Oh, man.
Anybody gets that reference, put it in the comments below. That's an awesome reference.
I mean, there's a song about it.
Yeah, there is. There is. Go ahead, Q. Take the next one. Forrest, thanks. That was a great comment. And we won't tell Jason about his gray hair. Troy, you know we refer to Jason as our Anderson Cooper, right?
Oh, wow. That's Silver Fox.
We call him our Anderson Cooper because of the gray hair and the fact that he covers, like, every war game. So Armored Warfare, World of Tanks, and World of Warships, all that stuff.
So appropriate.
We'll bring it to the show, and we go live to Anderson Cooper for the War and World of Warships update.
World of something.
He's live on the front lines.
Go ahead, Q. Sorry.
Pixelated Donkey. What they should do for the TSW Legends is give players a choice to start a character near the end of game and the amount of points to allocate in the skills that are suitable for in-game, like how it's done in SWTOR.
That's a good idea. And somebody yelled at me in the comments and told me I don't talk about the Secret World because clearly I don't know how to play the Secret World or never spent a lot of time in it because you can't possibly foobar a character. And I had mentioned that my first Illuminati character, halfway through Kingsmith, I was done playing. You absolutely could screw your character up.
Oh, yeah.
When that game
somebody's
first
out of their
launched.
mind.
When that game first launched.
You can screw it up, but you can end up, like, you know, basically grinding.
Oh,
to fix it.
Yeah,
like,
and that's. I think that was where.
Irreparable.
Yeah, I think that was where maybe the misinterpretation of the comments. Yeah, I'm sure that if I wanted to sit there and grind it out as hard as it was to get points to reallocate it to different skills and save the build, I could have. I was in Kingsmith. I was like halfway through the zone. Everything was ridiculously challenging. It was easier to just roll a character and not pick stupid
I was going to say, back then, there was that huge difficulty curve going into that third zone, too. I mean, huge, even if you didn't have a foobar character.
Oh, yeah, going after Kingsmith into Blue Mountain, and then...
Blue Mountain was insane like, at the beginning, getting in there.
Yeah, maybe, good point, Q, and to the viewer that commented, maybe that's where it was... I was not going to sit there and bash my head against it. Yes, I could have gained enough points to get different skills and
Did
passives.
you try with it? Were you working on decks, or were you just putting in what you thought?
No,
you wanted?
it was when the game first launched. I pre-ordered the game and everything, and so I was just grabbing what I liked, and eventually it was like, I'm getting smoked. Also, at that point, I didn't understand gear as well, obviously, since it was a brand
and
new
the gear
game.
is a bit of a learning curve on it. Like that's definitely true. But
So,
I think the reason
I guess the viewer, you're right.
I did decks
You're
all
right.
time.
I could technically have beat my head against the wall long enough to get some points and counteract it. I was only halfway through Kingsmith, so the character got foobarred, thrown out, rolled a dragon, and I was totally fine.
Well, and see, that was your first mistake, was not rolling a dragon.
Right.
The ability to fix it doesn't take away the fact that you can foobar a character.
Go ahead, Troy.
Oh, where are we even at? We're
Hydrex Sky Shadow.
Hydrex Sky Shadow? Is that where we're at?
Yep.
A-bomb to lazy developers have recently played Revelation again. I gave it another chance. The cutscenes were a colossal failure. Some of them didn't have sound synced with the movement, and other did not even had any sound at all. And the story was completely idiotic, and the animation of the character was beyond stupid. I can go on and on, but I'll stop. I've never seen a game that fails this much in the tutorial. Ouch.
Did you play Revelation Online at all, Troy?
No, that isn't usually my cup of tea. Blade and Soul just happened to be. I just happened to check that out and liked it. I don't usually just jump instantly into those.
Slash Coon says, A-bomb to Magic Man 1, a.k.a. Mike, for not taking up my subjective vote for Revelation on last video and obviously skewing the votes that gave Blade and Soul the victory over Revelation Online. Slash, unless your vote counted for 7, Blade and Soul walked away with it without a problem. Question of the week last week. Tell me about your most memorable boss fight in an MMO. Solo, dungeon, raiding, because of the story, because of the boss models, because of the mechanics. I don't care, whatever. Just tell me about it. Elusive X Treasure says, for the question of the week, I have to say, well, speaking of the secret world, I have to say that the boss that had the biggest impression on me was probably the final boss in Polaris in the secret world. That might have to do with the fact that my first time through I was healing it in a panic, but it really was an awesome fight. I liked Polaris. Go ahead, Q.
Hellsworth says, question of the week. Gar Molten Core raid in World of Warcraft was the first boss I ever saw a raid working on it, and at the time someone told me these words: those guys go there and get the small ones, and that guy just holds them down while taking damage. Those are here just to heal them, and the rest are just to deal damage and kill them. That's a lot to be told. And it blew my mind. First time I ever saw the Holy Trinity at work, and as a concept, I've played other things online before, not at that level of detail, trust, and coordination we all take for granted nowadays.
All right, I know we're running long today, but special guest Troy, and we're all catching up on each other. I'm going to tell you really briefly a very embarrassing story about instances. So when I first MMO played, you guys know it was Final Fantasy XI, and if you have any experience with Final Fantasy XI, while there were instance-based things like Chains of Promathia, you know, you're doing your promies and things like that, they weren't necessarily like dungeons in the way World of Warcraft players experienced dungeons. And so my brother and I, who's a year and a half, a little more than a year and a half younger than I, he got into gaming a little bit, and so I said, hey, I'm going to go check out this World of Warcraft. At that time, Burning Crusade had been out for a little while. And I said, and I've tried this once or twice, but I just keep going back to Final Fantasy XI. I'll try this game out if you want to try it out. And he was, okay, fine. So we both tried World of Warcraft out, and this was like the third or fourth time that I had tried it. It was just too easy for me coming from Final Fantasy XI, right? Okay, I just go talk to people who have question marks and exclamation points over their head. That's easy. I don't know, kill 10 of them. Okay, fine. I was used to having to grind for it, right? I remember once he came over, we were just level appropriate enough for Dead Mines, right? The first dungeon on the Alliance side, we rolled. I was going to
say you're a filthy Alliance player.
Right.
Oh my God.
We were at the time. I have seen the error of my ways.
Okay.
But at the time, we were Alliance humans. I was a warlock. He was a mage. And I remember he was over my house. My wife and kids must have been like, they go to Disney with my in-laws every year. It must have been like a weekend or a week that I was home alone. Because he came over and spent a night or two on the couch, and we played nonstop. We leveled up, and we're like, okay, we get to take on the first dungeon, right? And now keep in mind, neither of us has a frame of reference for what an MMORPG dungeon is like, right? We just don't. I have a very different experience in Final Fantasy XI, so I don't really know what I'm getting into here. You know, trash, boss, trash, boss, you know, whatever. So we go run the fucking Dead Mines, right? Level 15, 16, 17, whatever it is. Total nothing instance. Nothing. But we happened to get a group of 2 or 3 other people that also were new to World of Warcraft. So it was awesome in the experience that we got to have a true first dungeon experience at it being level appropriate with people that were also having that same. It was like 2.5 hours fucking long. It was like 2.5 hours. The Dead Mines. We went out when we were done. We like took a break halfway through, went outside and smoked, and we're like, God, this is intense. We're talking about the Dead Mines. Now we just run through and click AoEs as we run by, no matter if you're level appropriate or not. But we're like outside smoking. God, this is intense, man.
I could see where, especially if you were all new players and especially not familiar with that model at all.
Total fluke,
I could see where pulls in there would be intense. Like if you had no idea what was going on, there are some pretty hellacious pulls in there.
Yeah, it was total fluke that it happened that way too. Absolutely total fluke. Go ahead, Troy.
Yamikami, the most memorable boss is Yogg-Saron from World of Warcraft, the Frozen Throne. Interestingly enough, I just went big and did that way over leveled not too long ago with a couple of friends. That's still tough with just 2 or 3 people. Because you had 4 healthful buffs, but you could opt to disable them individually. Disabling all means hard mode. Furthermore, you had that unique insanity debuff you had to look out for constantly. But there's more. You also had 3 people, 10-man, sucked into an alternate reality during the fight where they have to battle on their own. It was just an epic and unique boss battle. Though I have to say, all Ulduar bosses were just awesome. Yogg-Saron was intense back then. Even now, if you go in way over geared, way over leveled, but you go in with only like 3 or 4 people, it can still be tough.
Yeah, I loved Ulduar. Go ahead, Q. Wait, is it Q's turn?
I think we got out of order from your story.
Did you did Hellsworth, right? Yeah, you did Hellsworth.
Yes,
okay, so it's my turn. Matavellos says, question of the week, definitely Lineage 2 C5 first Bayum of a server is the greatest feeling in the world, rushing from the start of the server to get enough power to destroy that and fail at the end. Boss is on the 13th floor of a tower where everyone in the server needs to go and give at least 1 hit to get the boss blood. Boss gives 1 amazing 100% full drop ring that's used afterwards for the Olympics, 1v1 PvP to get hero skills. You can imagine 40 clans of 50 plus people just fighting to get in the boss room and the rest of the server watching so they could happily just hit the boss for the blood. Greatest feeling of the world to just win that crazy fights on the small stair path, going into the room and choose who lives and who dies from the teleport so that one random guy just goes running and hits the boss. The boss awakes, the room is closed, half the clan is outside, fail, but the feeling is still worth it. What a great description. Thank you for that. I'm not a Lineage guy, so that's awesome. Go ahead, Q.
So, you know, it's funny, actually, before I do this, I was thinking about this when you posed the question the other day, and the most memorable boss I can think of is actually not from an MMO, but from a PlayStation 2 JRPG. Do you remember Orphan?
Yes.
Okay, so I bought Orphan, and the way Orphan was designed, it was one of those early ones where they would actually let you skip past mobs, right? It was like the beginning of that whole thing. Like I think, was it Chrono Cross let you do it? But Orphan was another one that let you do it. However, what Orphan didn't bother to do is tell you that if you skipped any mobs, you would get to a point where you literally could not defeat the boss. And there was this room you enter, and you can't leave to like go back out and try to grind back up if you need to or anything like that. You're just literally screwed if you get in there and you're under level. And it was where the big spider boss was at. Like, and so I'm sitting there and I'm trying everything, every little trick you can think of when playing a JRPG, adjusting all of my stuff, thinking maybe I need to change patterns, doing, you know, all the things that you're supposed to do when trying to defeat a boss. And finally, I'm just so mad. Like, I very rarely get mad at video games. It just, I can get up and walk away from a while, come back, do it, and normally I nail it or whatever it is. But this one, I'm so mad. My PlayStation 2 came that close to being slammed on the sidewalk outside.
Oh, no. Orphan was not a game that was worth that.
Oh, I was livid, and it was all literally because of poor design, because, like, if they're going to let you skip, you either need to be able to skip and still be able to, it might be harder, but you should still be able to skip and, achieve what you need to do.
Not a great game. Neither was Summoner. The best thing that came out of Summoner is the bonus video in the credits, where they're all all the characters in game are sitting around playing tabletop D&D. Fantastic little cartoon.
Oh, is that Bink video?
The one the big monsters in the kitchen asking where the Cheetos are. Yeah.
I loved that thing.
And he puts his head into the doorway, and he's like, because talking about the room that they're in. Are there girls there? 'Cause if they're girls, I want to do them.
That was one of the best things ever. It was so hilarious.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Gallstaff, Sorcerer of Light. Oh yeah? Then why'd you have to use Magic Missile?
Protecting the dark.
Go ahead, Q.
Idokata, back in the days of WoW, when I ran and raided, was one of the best times I'll never forget. It was the final raid boss of Cataclysm, and our group went to the hard mode fight on what we dubbed Death Gen. And we were going to give it a few shots, unsure will we do enough damage. It turns out we had to slow down our damage because we killed one of the stages too fast, resulting in one of the funniest wipes we ever had.
Go ahead, Troy.
Slash Coon. So far, the raid boss fight I will most likely remember the longest. It will be from a recent run in Revelation Online.
Wow.
Me and my guild went into a 10-man dungeon, and we had to figure out the mechanics of the boss and how to combat the problems with the fight we had and to succeed in the very end. That's always the most fun, isn't it? When the first few days of an MMO launch, there's no guides. There's nobody showing videos of how to do it. You got to go in with your group of guys and just figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
That's always the most fun for me.
Or if you have that tight core group, like the three of us when we played Rift, and it was like, none of us are going to go watch a guide. Even though this is old content, we're still going to go in and figure it out. You're absolutely right. Tommy Berrien says, I remember the revamped Tequaddle the Sunless on Guild Wars 2 simply because of all the dead people on the beach the day of the revamp. Question of the week this week, what's your favorite online CCG or TCG? Why? And if you hate all these card games that are coming out, I want to hear from you too. Which is the best one out there? Or if they all suck, tell me why. Put it in the comments below. Don't forget your weekly bombs. D-bomb for something good, A-bomb for something bad, or your question for the panel down there in the comments as well. And until next time, Troy, thank you so much for guesting. Where can everybody follow you?
Hey, twitch.tv/noobfridge every single day during the weekdays, 11:30 a.m., and we stream till about 5:30 p.m. Central Time, U.S. Come by, check it out. I certainly appreciate it. It's thanks to you guys. We are now part of the affiliate program on Twitch.
Woot woot. Q, where can everybody find you?
On the Twitters, and I still haven't gone through with the promise on the Twitch streaming stuff just because I've been so busy doing things. But hey, getting everything settled here, it's a lot of work.
I'm Mike Byrne, aka magicman. You can follow me personally on Twitter at magicman1, MAGICKMANN1. While you're there, make sure you follow at MMOBombs so that you get tweets right to your face of all the news, giveaways, interviews, first look videos, free-to-play casts, and all that other good content coming at you from MMOBomb. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.